3:47 a.m., July 14, 2025, 5 armed skiffs, black silhouettes cutting across the waves like arrows in the night, tore through the waters south of the Gulf of Aden. On board were ferocious pirates, each boat carrying 6 to 8 men armed with AK-47s and RPG launchers. Their target, MV Liberty Star, AUS, flagged cargo ship weighing over 60,000 tons and carrying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of machinery and electronic components. This wasn't just another pirate raid, it was a deliberate strike against one of the world's most strategic maritime lifelines, the vital shipping corridor linking the Middle East with Europe and the United States. The attackers believed victory was guaranteed. After all, Liberty Star sailed unarmed, not a single gun or bullet aboard. But what unfolded next wasn't mere survival. It was proof that discipline, coordination, and cutting-edge non-lethal defense technology could turn the tide against overwhelming firepower. This is the untold story of how a massive American cargo vessel fought back under heavy pirate fire without weapons and won. Stay with this story until the end. You won't want to miss the secret behind how Liberty Star endured. And before we dive deeper, remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments about this extraordinary battle at sea. The waters south of the Gulf of Aden were pitch black, heavy with the smell of oil and salt. The night was broken only by the faint red warning lights blinking on Liberty Star's deck. At 290 meters long, the giant ship cut a lonely figure as it pushed northward, heading for the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. On the bridge stood Captain Michael Davis, 54, a seasoned mariner who had already endured 3 armed approaches in his career. His eyes were locked on the glowing green sweep of the Furuno radar, his fingers tapping restlessly on the console. Beside him, Deck Officer Jackson scanned the horizon with infrared binoculars, listening to the steady hum of the eyes system broadcasting their position across waters every sailor called the Corridor of Death. Below deck, Chief Engineer Lisa monitored the Wurtsilk 1-4V-6 engine control panel, her earpiece directly linked to the captain. The main engine was holding steady at 80% capacity, its vibrations humming through the steel hull like a heartbeat. Every crew member felt the tension. Less than 48 hours earlier, 2 Panamanian-flagged cargo ships had been seized in this same stretch of sea, captured in under 6 minutes. At 3:49, the radar alarm shrieked, cutting through the silence like a blade. 5 small targets, bearing 115, speed 42 knots. Distance 8 nautical miles, Jackson reported, eyes fixed through the lenses. Davis leaned closer. On screen, 5 bright dots fanned out in attack formation, no eye signals. No response on VHF channel 16. Then the FLIR infrared camera swept across them, and the truth came into view. 5 fiberglass skiffs, each about 8 meters long, powered by outboard engines, loaded with armed men, to rifles visible in every boat, at least 1 RPG, there was no doubt. Somali pirates. Activate Layer 1, all hands to stations, Davis ordered, his voice steady and firm. The crew sprang into rehearsed action. Dummy figures were placed along the railings to give the illusion of extra guards. High-powered green laser dazzlers came online, beams slicing into the night, aimed directly at the oncoming attackers' eyes. Lisa throttled the engines, pushing the vessel another 4 knots faster, the Liberty Star's stern rising and throwing off violent wakes. On the roof of the bridge, the LRAD-450XL acoustic system swiveled into position. At 154 decibels, it blasted warnings in both English and Somali, turn back immediately. The message repeated 3 times, echoing across the waves, but the pirates closed in undeterred. Davis gave the signal, switched to deterrence mode. The LRAD's frequency shifted to a piercing 2.5 kHz tone, strong enough to rattle steel fittings. Through his binoculars, Jackson saw 2 pirates double over, clutching their heads in pain. But the other boats surged forward even faster, their bows rising high as they cut through the swells. 3:52, gunfire cracked, the first bursts of 7.62 mm rounds tore into the ship, A container on deck 3 sparked orange as bullets struck steel. Another round screamed past Jackson, forcing him to dive behind cover. The Liberty Star was under full attack. Captain Davis knew their first layer of defenses wasn't enough. Every second bot mattered because Layer 2 was about to come online. Engine at maximum safe output, Lisa reported, voice steady over the comms. The ship shook from the power, water foaming white in its wake, reflecting green laser. Beams and muzzle flashes, the radar showed the distance shrinking fast. 8 nautical miles, Jackson said. Davis didn't hesitate, activate Layer 2, deploy everything. The order thundered through the internal speakers. At the stern, two massive reels of synthetic fiber ropes, each nearly 200 meters long, splashed into the sea, floating just beneath the surface. Deadly traps designed to foul propellers. High-capacity pumps roared to life. 12-bar water cannons unleashed streams of white fury from both port and starboard, jets of liquid so dense they looked like steel beams under the deck lights. Crewmen released the water curtain system, long hoses whipping violently at the waterline, spraying unpredictable arcs that formed a barrier impossible to climb through. On the port side, Jackson's team stretched out coils of razor-sharp concertina wire, securing them along the railings. Under the deck lights, the steel glinted like a wall of knives. 3:55, the lead skiff broke from formation, swinging in from the 7 o'clock position. It dodged the water jets and barreled into the rope barrier zone. Suddenly impact, the propeller screamed, then died. The boat jerked violently, inertia flinging one pirate into the sea as the skiff spun helplessly, the other for both split. Circling in from both sides, on the starboard side, a grappling hook clattered onto deck 2's railing. A pirate scrambled up, but a cannon blast slammed into him, throwing him back into the water, his weapon spinning into the waves. On the port side, it was worse. One skiff darted through a blind spot between water streams two pirates leapt from. The bow ladders hooking onto the side of the Liberty Star. They climbed fast, silhouetted against the floodlights. Jackson shouted a warning and redirected the jets, but gunfire erupted from below. AK-47 bursts sprayed upward. One round struck a shield plate, another ricocheted into a container, scattering metal shards. Crew members dropped flat as sparks rained down. 3:57, on the bridge, Davis gripped the controls, eyes locked on the radar. The ship's fate hung on what came next. The cameras along the Liberty Star's hull caught the worsening situation on the port side. Davis didn't hesitate. His voice cut through the comm system with authority. Lock compartments. Seal the doors, minimize breach risk. Instantly, the internal systems activated. Heavy steel seals clamped shut along passageways, transforming corridors into segmented barriers meant to slow or stop any intruders. Some of the crew, following protocol, retreated deeper inside to the safe rumor-reinforced chamber at the ship's center. Its walls were steel-bladed, doors bolted thick, and it had its own air supply. Inside, supplies for 72 hours were stacked neatly: water, rations, first aid, and most importantly, an independent satellite communications system that would remain functional even if the ship's main comms failed. On deck, the automated water cannons whirred, adjusting their angle by 20 degrees, targeting the port side. The first pirate to leap from his skiff and grab for the railing found himself met with a brutal torrent. A high-pressure jet smashed into his chest, the sheer force throwing him backward as if struck by a steel beam. He hit the edge of his skiff with a hollow thud before collapsing onto the deck below. But the danger doubled in seconds. A second skiff latched onto the hull, its boarding crew quick and ruthless. Their hooks bit into steel, climbers bracing themselves with practiced movements. One pirate swung a knife between his teeth as he fought for purchase. Jackson, manning a cannon, shifted tactics with precision. He twisted the control, switching to a piercing straight jet. The beam of water struck with punishing accuracy, smashing into the pirate's side. The man cried out, lost his grip, and toppled backward into the roiling dark water, his curses swallowed by the sea. At 3:59 hours, the assault escalated. A dull hump echoed across the waves. A rocket-propelled grenade had been fired. The missile streaked past starboard, leaving a glowing red arc across the night sky before exploding ahead of the bow. The detonation threw up a column of seawater over 10 meters high, rocking the Liberty Star like a toy on the waves. Shrapnel clattered against the bridge, one piece tearing into the communications antenna. The VHF system crackled and died for a moment, the crew's voices dissolving into static. Davis didn't wait. He reached for the global maritime distress and safety system. With a firm press, he transmitted a Mayday burst, complete with GPS coordinates, directly through satellite relay. At the same time, he activated the Inmarsat channel, sending an encrypted emergency signal to the U.S. Fifth Fleet, far to the north, 60 nautical miles away. A destroyer patrol callsign Adrenal 1 received the alert. On the horizon, new lights shimmered. Another skiff, reinforcements. The defense continued relentlessly. The water cannons fired without pause, jets slashing the night air. Blinding lasers swept across the waves, catching drivers in the eyes, forcing them to duck and veer. Lisa's voice came over comms, steady but tense, main engines holding at 20 knots. Any faster risks overload. On deck, the chaos became surreal. Water vapor hung thick in the air, forming a shifting curtain that caught the glow of deck lights. The sea sprayed upward, glimmering like glass shards in a storm. For remaining skiffs circled doggedly, weaving into U-shaped patterns, looking for openings in the razor wire strung along the Liberty Star's flanks. Gunfire cracked through the night, muzzle flashes blinked from the skiffs, bullets sparking against containers and ricocheting off steel. The roar of engines, the hiss of water jets, and the rattle of automatic fire merged into a single storm of sound. Davis scanned the radar, his jaw tightened. Two large signals appeared on the northeast edge of the screen, reinforcements inbound, but they were still 40 nautical miles away, time the Liberty Star did not have. On port side, one skiff pushed dangerously close, less than 5 meters now. High-pressure jets struck again and again, yet to figures clawed upward with inhuman determination. Their hands clung to hooked ladders, their feet scraping against the hull, AK rifles slung across their backs, barrels swinging as they climbed. Deck Team 2, hold your ground. Davis barked into the intercom, don't let them board. Jackson braced himself, the cannons recoil shoving into his shoulder. He unleashed a jet like a steel lance. The lead pirate's chest was crushed beneath its force. The man flung violently back, body crumpling against the edge of his skiff. The second climber dodged, nimble, hooking a grapple onto the railing. His boot found purchase in half a second. He'd be on deck. Jackson didn't give him the chance. He twisted the nozzle and let loose a sweeping blast across the man's ribs. The pirate staggered, lost his hold, and dropped into the foaming waves. From starboard came renewed gunfire. Bullets punched upward, one round tearing through a container. Metal shards sprayed like shrapnel. A sailor yelped as his shoulder was cut open, shirt ripped, blood streaking down his arm. Minor injury still holding. He shouted defiantly, wrapping a field bandage around the wound with one hand while the other kept the water cannon trained. Below deck, Lisa kept her eyes locked on the CCTV monitors. She spotted a group of pirates maneuvering near the bow. Probing for a blind spot, her fingers danced over the remote controls. A fixed cannon swiveled 30 degrees, spraying a wide sweep that forced the attackers to scatter. By 4:06, the battle intensified. The new skiff closed within 100 meters. 7 men were aboard, one raised an RPG, braced for impact. Davis ordered. The rocket's red trail lit the darkness, striking the Liberty Star's port side. The explosion went off mere meters from the railing. Steel rang like a bell, orange sparks skittering across the deck. Communications flickered again, but Davis didn't waste time. He activated the safe room's backup comms, transmitting once more. Coordinates updated, situation critical. The reply came steady, resolute, reinforcements inbound, 38 nautical miles, speed 150 knots. Still too far, the pirates, emboldened, tried a new tactic. Engines cut, one skiff drifted silently close. Grappling hooks whistled through the air, catching on the railing with dull metallic thuds for ropes held fast. Cut them loose. Jackson roared, charging with 2 sailors. They hacked and wrenched, freeing one hook, but 3 remained taut. 3 shadows began to climb. A blast of water slammed into the first, ripping him away, but the other 2 dodged, scrambling upward like predators. One vaulted over the railing. Pistol drawn, Jackson moved on instinct. The water cannon couldn't angle in time. He lunged forward with a steel pole, striking the gun hand. The pistol skittered across the deck before tumbling into the sea. A second blast from behind hammered the pirate off his feet, flinging him back into the skiff before gravity claimed him. By 10, the deck was slick with seawater, the sharp tang of gunpowder mixing with salt spray. The vapor was so thick it blurred vision, lights glowing hazy and surreal. Davis glanced starboard and cursed under his breath. Another grappling hook landed, clanging against steel. Deploy secondary barrier. 2 sailors heaved a reinforced plastic shield into position, creating a near-impenetrable gap along the railing. A pirate tried to climb, but a fixed jet swept across, forcing him back with a howl. Lisa's voice returned, tense, engine temp, rising 15 minutes at most before overload. Davis' reply was sharp, unyielding. We only need 10. He checked the radar again. The Seahawk helicopters were closing now 25 nautical miles. At 13, the pirates changed tactics once again. Instead of charging in, they opened fire from a distance. A hail of AK-47 rounds rattled against the containers, sparks flying like rain. Shards of steel sliced into another sailor's cheek. Blood streaked down his face, but he stayed at his post, hand gripping the cannon controls, the water jet forming a shield across the port side. And then through the chaos, the faint, steady thrum of rotor blades. Helicopters. Hope. Davis glanced at the clock. 15. Everyone hold fast. Reinforcements in 3 minutes. The order thundered across the Liberty Star's comms. But for the crew, those 3 minutes stretched like hours. On the port side, a pirate skiff lunged recklessly across the bow, desperate to find a boarding point. The Liberty Star's high-speed wake slammed into it, rocking the fragile craft violently, nearly capsizing it. Shouts of panic carried through the night air. Then came the sound every sailor had been straining to hear, the distant thump of rotors. The Seahawk helicopters were closing in. Their powerful searchlights tore across the black water, locking onto the skiffs and scattering. The pirates in panic. One boat spun away in retreat. 2 others broke formation. Yet the crew of Liberty Star stayed tense as wire because it only took one pirate making it onto the deck to turn the situation into a brutal hand-to-hand fight before U.S. forces could intervene. Inside the bridge, Captain Davis kept his hand steady on the emergency switch, ready to unleash the full deck water cannon system. If pirates reached the rails, he would transform the steel deck into a raging torrent, holding the ship for just a few more critical minutes. For 10, the first MH-60R Seahawk slashed through the night sky, its rotor blades chopping the air, its spotlight casting wild, distorted shadows of Liberty Star and the skiffs across the waves. The roar of the helicopter drowned out the sporadic cracks of small arms fire and the hiss of Liberty Star's water cannons. Through the bridge glass, Davis saw the gray airframe marked boldly with Navy. Its door gunners swung M240 machine guns toward the hostile skiffs. The Seahawk banked sharply, then fired a string of bright flares. The sea exploded with fire and light, blinding the attackers. Moments later, the gunners stitched a burst of warning fire ahead of a charging skiff, the rounds erupting in tall spouts of seawater. Two skiffs broke off, veering southeast in retreat. One pressed forward only to be met by the roar of a second Seahawk swooping in from the northwest, lowering a Navy Special Forces team on fast ropes. The helicopter hovered just above the surface, its rotor wash whipping the waves into chaos. The pirates struggled to steer. From above, another burst of fire cracked near the skiff's side, forcing the raiders to cower and shield their faces. On Liberty Star's deck, Jackson and his crew kept the water cannons hammering, denying any pirate a chance to climb aboard. Then came the black RHIB combat boat, skimming the surface at blistering speed, its twin engines howling, Navy operators. Onboard closed in on a fleeing skiff, loudspeakers blaring, U.S. Navy stop your engines now. No compliance, a second warning burst land into the water barely 2 meters from the skiff. That broke their will, the engine cut, pirates dropped prone, hands behind heads, and were swiftly cuffed and hauled onto the rib. Meanwhile, Liberty Star held at 20 knots, Davis refusing to ease off the throttle until he was certain they had distance from the enemy. Radar confirmed remaining skiffs were over 5 nautical miles out and pulling farther away. For 26, the 2nd Seahawk deployed its special forces team directly onto Liberty Star's deck. Black-clad figures in tactical gear swept across the ship with practiced precision, American flags stitched on their vests, carbines ready. The team leader's voice cut over internal comms. We'll clear the deck and port side. Every container, every shadowed corner was checked and secured. Lisa reported from the engine room, main engine stable, ready to continue. Under the blaze of helicopter searchlights, the Liberty Star's soaked deck gleamed like steel glass. On the soldiers' shoulders, the American flag patches glowed starkly against the darker, powerful reminder of what was at stake. For the first time in nearly 40 minutes, Captain Davis exhaled, his white-knuckled grip finally easing from the controls. The Navy confirmed Liberty Star was secure. A Special Forces detachment would remain aboard, escorting the vessel out of the kill zone. From an offshore command post, the U.S. First Commander's voice came steady over the radio. Liberty Star, you held the line. We'll get you home safe. Keep that flag high. Show them who owns these waters and